If you do not strut through life with deliberate intention, life is gonna sweep you away with it. And you know this is happening because you feel lost, you feel taken advantage of. So you're probably going to feel resentment, bitterness. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, who the fuck am I? So if you don't want to feel like that and you want to feel way more confident, unbothered, and highly exclusive, then you're going to want to listen to today's episode, which is all about bookending your day with AM and PM practices that support you in connecting to yourself. Hey, my name is Star Monroe from the Star Monroe Show, and each week I drop exclusive wisdom all about you strutting in to your main character era. So let's get into it. This is in two parts. Today I'm going to dive into my AM practices, and by all means, take what resonates, discard the rest. And I invite you to play and get really curious about how you are starting your day. And then next week, I'm going to drop the evening edition, how I complete each and every single day. So I want to let you know first and foremostly that the most important times in your day are the first thing in the morning where you are moving from asleep to awake. That period of time doesn't, it's not long either. It's a very potent time for you to plug into your subconscious more of what you want and how you want to feel. And it's potent because your conscious mind, the monkey mind, the mind, the part of your brain that does not shut the fuck up and, oh, I've got this to do today and this to do and I need to do this and, oh my God, that person spoke to me like that. You know, that's your monkey mind. So there's a point between you being asleep and being awake before that monkey mind catches hold of you. And I want you to catch that time. I want you to become aware of you moving from asleep to awake. And it's very, very simple. What I do is, as I'm coming to in the mornings, I say, good morning. How are you? I love you. And I learned a long time ago that if I rush around in the morning, if I do not give myself enough space for my time in the morning, then the rest of the day ends up higgledy-piggledy all over the place. And also, what happens is I stress myself out first thing in the morning, and I'm not here for that. I get to create my days how I want to, and it's a choice. And I know because I have been teaching this method to many, many women over the years that when they find their own unique blend of their morning practices, their days start better, they have more confidence, more clarity, and they don't move into overwhelm or anxiety as much. And if they do, they have a touchstone to come back to a calm, centered, still point within them. There's more information I can unpack that. It really is important for you to cultivate this still point within you. A lot of us have learned to attach ourselves onto external markers of safety, security, and stability. So if my partner is nice, I feel happy. If everything goes well at work today, I feel good. If XYZ happens, yes, it's a great day. And yet, I want to remind you that we have no control over anything outside us. The world and life is unpredictable, uncertain, and wildly chaotic. Your job and my job is to cultivate a sense of calm, centeredness and groundedness within us, because we are home and we need to return home again and again. And this is why I love these morning and evening practices, because they act like a touchstone for me to connect back to myself. Wherever you go in the world, whatever you do, there you are. And I talk from experience as a woman who spent over 30 years in self-destruct mode. And that's when I was running, numbing, ignoring myself through cocaine, alcohol, shitty relationships, drama, chaos. And yet it will catch up with you. Well, it certainly caught up with me living that way. So let's bypass that and let's create really good practices and rituals that support you. If you've listened to any of my previous podcasts, I talk a lot about inside you is your genius. It resides in your DNA, and you have your very own unique blend of genius, as do I. And my job is to guide and support you into living aligned with that genius. Some people might call that your authenticity. Some people might call that living aligned with God, Goddess, divine intelligence, your higher self. It matters not. What matters is it's in you and it's in me. And what happens is, to live aligned with this genius, you need to show up for yourself. You need to double down on how you connect to yourself. And it's not something you do every now and then. These are daily practices. You need to take yourself seriously. You need to take how you want to move through this world seriously. Move through the world with deliberate intention, as I started the podcast. Otherwise, you end up being pulled in so many different directions in everyone else's business and end up being a doormat for everyone else's feet to wipe over, leaving you feeling resentful, bitter, and lost and exhausted. And that ain't a life for you. I know that you are a woman who wants more, who gets the ick at the idea of settling. So, returning to the morning practice, it's acknowledging that period of time from asleep to awake, welcoming that day in, welcoming yourself. You're noticing yourself, you're validating yourself, you're appreciating yourself. Alongside that, I've already mentioned, there is this firm invitation to stop rushing around in the morning, to slow down. The last thing you want to do in the morning is shift yourself into your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight, flight, fawn, freeze, and flap. So that's when you're reacting to life. And so you want to start the day off slowly in your parasympathetic nervous system. This is your rest and digest. This is where your mind and your body have more space to process. So starting your day off a little slower. And of course, this will tie into your evening routine. And yet we're going to dive into your evening routine on the next episode. So let's stay with the morning. So once you have woken up, you put your feet on the floor. I always take a moment and I look at my feet as they land on the floor, because as my feet land on the floor, I'm grounding myself. I'm here in this very present moment. And it might sound ridiculous, and yet we believe all sorts of ridiculous ideas. We can't walk under a ladder because it's unlucky, or a black cat is lucky or unlucky, or we can't put new shoes on the table. So What I'm here to do is to wash your brain with new information and to challenge the way that you think about things. So, the idea of me, and I'm doing it right now, and I invite you to do this now if you're not driving or moving around, is you put your bare feet on the floor and you look at them and you connect in with that part of your body, because once you connect in with your feet, you're going to connect in with your legs and the rest of your body. And then you stand up and you welcome in the day. Take a deep breath in, you go off, you do all the things that you normally do first thing in the morning. And then what I do once I've made my cup of coffee, bear in mind, my alarm will wake me up. I will turn my alarm off and then I will place my phone on my desk in my office, and I do not touch my phone until I've completed this morning routine. You see, first thing in the morning, your brain is highly susceptible to information. And if you are a woman who is moving through the world in that fight flight response, you're always ready to react to everything, you feel stressed out. And there's a whole loop going on there, because if you live like that, then you tend to be addicted to adrenaline and cortisol, and cortisol skews the perception of time. The last thing you want to do is pick your phone up and start looking at all the nonsense on your phone. I'm a huge advocate for not looking at the news, not reading the news, not getting involved with any drama or chaos online. It's highly seductive, very alluring, and it pulls you in. And what that does, it pulls you away from this connection that I am firmly inviting you to start to cultivate for yourself. So, no phones first thing in the morning. I mean, the goal is to have no phones for the first hour of the day. And so you are peacefully and mindfully moving around in your own world, connecting to yourself and connecting to how you want to move through the day. So, the next point, and I will sum all of this up at the end of the podcast because I know I am a great storyteller and I go at different angles all at the same time. I grab my chair, I open my journal, and I do the morning pages. Now, this is from a book by Julia Cameron. It's called The Artist's Way. And it's a great book, and she is a genius, and she is encouraging and supporting and guiding people to tap into their creativity. And we have this creativity in us. And so in my world, it's in your genius. And we want to be able to tap into that. And I use her method. I've evolved it slightly for my own purposes because I've found slight tweaks that work for me. And basically, what I do is I sit at my desk and I write 3 pages, a stream of consciousness, whatever is going on in my mind. Here's the kicker: whether I want to do it or not, whether I feel in the mood or not, whether I have anything to say or not. This requires discipline. This requires you to show up for yourself, even when your mind is talking you out of it. And there are no magic cures, there's no secret fixes here. You just show up and do it. I will pull on a piece of wisdom from Mel Robbins. She says, it's called the 5 second rule. We have 5 seconds from the impetus to do something until we talk ourselves out of it. For me, morning pages is, I place a lot of value on it because it is the way for me to connect to myself and for me to start to unjumbling the thoughts that go on inside my head. And I know from experience of working with women for over 35 years that If women do not have a practice to divest themselves of what's going on inside their minds, they believe they are their thoughts, and you're not. You are the observer of your thoughts. Now, if you want to, and I highly encourage you to do this, if you want to learn more about becoming the observer of your thoughts, then Stephen Cope, Stephencope, he writes beautiful books on the philosophy of yoga. He has written many books. And when I started reading his books, and I read them all, it really opened my mind. And this is what you need this if you want to become in control of you, because you aren't in control of anything else. So you've got to be in control of you. You've got to have a curious mind, open heart, open mind. And I love the way that he explained the philosophy of becoming the observer of your thoughts. So, coming back to the morning pages, you're writing out whatever's going on in your head. And it might be, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. Why am I doing this? Write it out. Write it out. Write whatever's going on. Even if I've got nothing to say, I've got nothing to say, I've got nothing to say. Keep writing it out. I will guarantee you, you show up day in, day out without expectation. Without expectation. Now, that's a skill to be able to show up, to do these practices without expecting anything to come from them. You are showing up purely to connect, to get to know yourself. One of the things that I've always said over the years is that you need to create and curate an encyclopedia on yourself. You need to understand how you think, why you think. You need to understand how your inner child runs the show, your rebel teen runs the show. You need to understand the dynamics between your family. You need to be willing to heal your past wounding so you can strut into your main character energy, so you can become a high value woman. And this doesn't come over one day or one week of you showing up doing the morning pages. It comes through you showing up for yourself over and over again over a period of time. And life is not about the destination, because I know this to be true. I spent many years destination living. If I lost 20 pounds, I'd be happy. If I found the great partner, that would be amazing. If I earn XYZ dollars, oh, my life would be complete. And it never is, because it's not about the destination. It's about really dropping into and being mindful of the journey, the present moment. The only destination, and I've said this before, is death. And especially if you're traversing through midlife and beyond, there is an there is a door waiting for you to welcome in your mortality, to look at your relationship with death and dying. So, if we go back to the morning pages, you are divesting yourself of your thoughts. It's uncensored. You never read this back. In fact, I tried to read mine back the other day and I can't even read my writing. So, I'm not writing it to read it back, I'm writing it to divest. Now, over the period of time that I've been doing it, I think I'm nearly on or at, I'm trying to think, 6 months into this practice. I I break it up by divesting my thoughts, and then I always welcome in any fears. I'm not one to plaster over a happy smiley face if I'm feeling a certain way. So if there's something niggling, I call them, they're your fears. I call them the weeds. I welcome them onto the page, and I'm like, well, I'm scared of this, or I'm trying to think back to this morning when I did it, or this won't last, or this is not going to stay around, or you can't do this again, or you won't know what to do, the answers are not there. And what I do is I write it all on the paper, and I really say, I hear you, and I'm writing this out. I hear you, I see you, I honor you, and we're going to find a way. The answers will come. And I check back in with myself. How are you feeling? Oh, well, I'm feeling anxious right now. Okay, well, I hold that anxiety. What do you need? Well, I'm not sure what I need. And so I'm having this conversation with myself. And over a period of time, by doing the morning pages, what you're doing is cultivating a deeper relationship with yourself. And as I said, you are there with yourself every single moment of every single day. And your job is to come back home to yourself. So, also on the morning pages, and I do it kind of right to the tail end, I always say appreciations, you might call it gratitude. Can't get my head around the word gratitude, so I swapped it out for the word appreciations. I say prayers, I ask for support and guidance from my higher self, my version of God, uh, divine intelligence, and always I know that everything is inside me, so I'm asking from support from within, because everything is an inside job. It's how I show up for myself. And then I shut the book and I'm done. And I move on to the next part of my morning routine, which is I am a student of the I Ching. I am not asking you or suggesting that you even do this. And yet, over the years, I have been dabbling with the I Ching. I think I first picked the book up in 2020. And so I've dabbled with throwing three pennies every morning and I read from the book. And when I first started reading it years ago, I hated it because it almost acts as a killjoy. It reminds me to not get attached to my ego, which is like everything's going great, this is wonderful, or everything's going bad, this is so bad. And so what it reminds me, the I Ching, is to control my inferiors, my interiors, and to always stay open to the sage. They call it the sage in the I Ching, and it helps me, it supports me to stay steadfast, disciplined, committed to the higher path, to me as establishing higher standards for myself, because I know when I establish higher standards for myself, then I expect that, I demand that from the world at large. I no longer settle from crumbs from the world because I no longer settle for crumbs from myself. So I read the I Ching, and then I will always have a book on my desk that expands and opens my mind. And I will read 1 or 2 pages. That is it from that book. I don't want to cram my head full of information. And the intention behind that is to get me to think differently, because this is why I advocate for this kind of work on a daily basis. Because if you do not keep nudging at yourself and keep questioning the way that you're moving through your life, then you will shut your mind down and you will start to live in your ego mind, which is very black and white. This is right, this is wrong. And we all label everything. Well, I feel sad, so that's bad, or I feel happy, this is good, or and we've got to live underneath the duality of things. So I'm always looking to read books that expand my mind, that get me to think slightly differently. And I've always got different books on the go, and I invite you to look along your bookshelf right now and to see which book is calling you. And you're like, oh, I keep meaning to read that. And so there be a book that is calling you, and maybe you insert that into your morning practice, because I could recommend my books, and yet I know over the years of me doing this work, these are books that have called me. Oh, I'm going to pull on this quote by Rumi: "Follow what lights you up; you will not be led astray." And what lights me up may not light you up. And I'm not here for you to have to read certain books. It's there'll be a red thread that's pulling you, and you want to follow that. So once I've read that book, I close the book. I may make some notes in my journal, and then I get on with my day. I move into my office space and I turn on my computer and sashay strut into my day. So let me surmise that morning practice and remind you right from the beginning. I said, take what resonates, discard the rest. Starting and having a deliberate morning practice is essential because you want to connect to yourself and not the outside world. You want to start to tune the outside world out and tune into you. You want to cultivate a steady pathway to your genius because your genius is your higher self. It contains everything you need to live a full, vibrant, flamboyant, bold, and brilliant life. And I understand that outside you, there are people that will inspire you, that will wake you up. And that's great. And yet, you always want to return back to yourself to contemplate how that fits into the jigsaw pieces of your life. So, the morning practice is slowly waking up, noticing the point of you asleep to awake, greeting yourself kindly, not rushing. Place your feet on the floor, connecting to your feet on the floor, connecting to your body, welcoming in the day, welcoming in yourself. Do whatever you need to do to get your morning up and running. There is 0 phones first thing in the morning. And then you sit down, morning pages. The next thing I do is I read the I Ching, and then I read 2 pages from a book that is calling me to read it. I take notes. I close down my morning practice, and then I move into my day. I would love to connect with you somewhere on those social channels. Come and find me on TikTok. I'm at Star Monroe. Over on Instagram, I'm at Ms. Star Monroe. And if you want to dive deeper into your main character era, then of course, download my book, Main Character Energy, Upgrade Your Midlife, and or my mini program, Amplify Your Confidence. You're going to find everything you need in the show notes. And until next time, stay fucking fabulous.